You may not feel like an expert, but your story, your words, they might just be the anchor, the exact anchor someone has been praying for. When your voice is spoken out, sometimes your voice becomes someone else's anchor. If you're joining me live or on the replay, please do let me know. Say hi. I'd love to talk to you. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I'm a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 39 books and counting. I've had the wonderful privilege of helping, more than 5,000 people write, publish, market their books to bestseller, and everything that goes beyond that. And I'm here today to help you find clarity. Clarity is powerful. Knowing who you are, what you're here for, and how to be able to say that, to move from passion to purpose, to move from the place where you know what you are excited about, to you know how to be able to use that in a way that impacts both other people's lives as well as your own. And I think it's important for you to notice and really hear me when I say that it may be your very life that is the life. When I talk about your voice being somebody's anchor, that somebody could even be you. There are people that are listening to you. First of all, your own ears are listening to you. Absolutely, they are. Your brain is hearing every single word that your mouth is saying every day. And it's taking it in. And unfortunately, our brains are just really computing devices. So if we ask it, why is this, why that, we ask it to compute things for us, it'll do it. And if we ask it to tell us why we're, something negative, it's going to do that too. Our words, our voice is somebody's anchor. It starts in us. You are your anchor. You are grounded in. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. As a man feels in his heart, so is he. As a man speaketh in his heart, so is he. See, it's the words that come out of your mouth that are not only reflecting who you are, but they're also defining where you're going. They're your GPS. And then in addition to that, we've been talking all week about ripples, and I want you to see and understand the ripple. We went really deep yesterday in talking about the concept of your book and it going here and there and there, and the words from it rippling out even beyond people who ever saw or know you had a book. There's nothing better than, they talk about imitation being the greatest form of flattery. And when somebody rips off your stuff, sometimes you don't really feel flattered. Let's just be really brutally honest about it, okay? But the truth of the matter is that really, truly, for sure, like for reals, your words are resonating. People are hearing what you're saying, okay? You have, for example, and this is an easy example, but you have your grown child who doesn't, or at least on the surface, is going to say, I don't agree with anything that they have to, I'm completely opposite of them. They're just totally, we often have done that with our own parents or our grandparents. And our children often reflect that same to us. It's the natural order in some respects of how things go. People grow, they become adults, they get their own opinions, and then they begin to start seeing the wisdom of some of those things. But here's the truth. Here's the coolest part of that whole thing. Even while they're going to tell all their friends and all their people around how whack and crazy you are, your words are coming out to their mouth. Absolutely, I promise you. And some of those, they'll be like, oh, I can't believe I just said that. That's something my mom said. Most of the time, they won't even know where that thing that's deeply ingrained in them came from. And it's actually your words reflecting out. And the same is true literally with every person that you meet. But I want to talk specifically about the people that you invest yourself in. See, when we go out and we do live, for those of you that don't know, this is actually my third live already today. I mean, it's 12:40 my time. I'm in Central Time Zone if you're stalking me. And this is actually the third live I've done. The first one I did this morning while I was on my walk. I really am digging using the doors on the building that I feel very strongly God has said we're going to work that out and turn that into the Zaraza International headquarters. And I like taking pictures of it. I like doing the mirror exercise into the reflection of me there. It kind of gives that kind of haunting, shadowy presence, and also puts the vision right there in with it. And to say all the things that have been promised are happening right now. That's my particular thing I'm saying this month. What are you saying? I'd love to hear in the comments. Feel free to comment live or on the replay. Comment, what is your mantra, your affirmation, your statement, your positive thing that you're saying, and how are you using it? Are you doing like I'm doing and going live for like that 5 seconds? I mean, they're short. You can go on. You can see the one that I did Sunday and yesterday, Monday, and today, Tuesday, if you're, live and you want, or if you're not live rather, and you want me to reiterate what days those were. All of those kind of things, and they're out there. And I'd love to know how you're doing it. In any way, you can only be who you are. Yeah, you can only be who you are because everybody else is taken and because nobody else can be you. You're as uniquely, they say, and I love, there was an old cartoon that I saw one time where there were two scientists in the snow. And one was holding up one, and they were comparing together two snowflakes, and they're like, we found it, because there's the old saying that says no two snowflakes are exactly alike. And I don't know whether scientifically that's actually true or not. I do like I think it was a Far Side joke that, comic strip that was. But what I can tell you is no two people are alike. Identical twins aren't alike. If you've ever known identical twins, even when they look so much alike that, like if one of them happens to wear glasses and the other one doesn't, and they, trade the glasses, even their own parents can be fooled by it. The truth of the matter is they're two very, very different people. And it becomes, and the older they get, the more readily apparent that really becomes. My two twin cousins, I can't believe, because they stayed with us when they were 5, and I can't believe that they're in their 40s now. Oh my gosh. Matt and Andre. And Matt, I heard from my mom, if I caught this correctly, his child is graduating from high school, which makes you feel really old because I was in like junior high when they were living with us. I think I was in junior high when they were living with us, and they were 5, and like I said, that's hard to contemplate. But I can tell you, it's so interesting to see how the same they are, but how absolutely totally varied their lives are. And that's just true. And it's that way all along the path, all along the way. So you got to show up as you. Because someone's waiting on you. Or if you want to go with my more harsh one that I kind of do like, someone is suffering in your silence. You are the anchor. Okay, now anchors, a lot of times we think of anchors in a negative context, but if you're on a ship, you want your boat to have an anchor. Anchors are used in several different ways to create drag as well as to create stability. You're somebody's stability while you feel at total chaos and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't have my clarity and I'm not being consistent even though Steve nags me about it every single day. You're still somebody's anchor. The things you say are making that ripple impact. And there are people already, I promise you, that are waiting for your next word. And maybe you've only ever said something once. Or maybe it's been a couple of weeks or a couple of months or even a few years since you said this something. There's somebody, And they may not even actively know it. They may not be specifically, like we're waiting for Terry Brooks to bring out his next book, or Tony Robbins to do his next talk, or, whatever that might be. Okay. If you were watching the live that I just did, just before I did this one, another book launched out today. And Wendy, the Financial Lion, she's all talking about some really cool ways that you can create wealth in your life. And somebody was waiting, for more than a year for her book. Molly Mahoney, when her book came out, she ended up with, that arm that was broken and she couldn't write. And the book took a year to come out. Somebody's waiting on you. Now, in both Wendy and Molly's case, there were people that were already their followers that were clamoring for them and wanting them to do it. In other authors that I've worked for's case, nobody knew who they were. Nobody's ever heard of them before. I mean, I'm not talking about people who the book that came out of a month ago almost now, Lataxion's book about the journey with his daughter and the whole legal battle of having, in-laws try to literally take his custody rights away from him. People in certain areas, because he was a regional vice president for the NCAA. I almost said NC. No, I did say NCAA. NAACP. In a storm, you only have the anchor. Absolutely. So certain people, do know him, and a lot of people don't. And now more people know him. It's that kind of deal. Some of the times, the things that you're saying, not only don't you know who needs them, but the person who needs them doesn't even know, but they're waiting on it. See, here's the thing, and I love that Patricia said in a storm, you only have the anchor, because I'd like to touch on that for a second. If you're just bopping around in good weather in whatever kind of boat, okay, it doesn't matter. It could be a speedboat, it could be a sailboat, it could be a rowboat, all right? Most of the time when we're on a boat, unless we're fishing, when you're fishing, a lot of times you do throw the anchor because you want your boat to stay, at least somewhat in the same place, typically, especially if you're like river fishing. Now, there are things that we do in the river where we want the boat to float on purpose. That's a whole different style of fishing, okay? But other than, times when you're intentionally wanting to stop in the middle of water somewhere, you don't really think about the anchor. It's just there, sitting over in the back corner of the boat somewhere, being all anchory, just waiting. But I tell you what, if that storm came up, you'd be really, really glad that you had that anchor that you could drop real quick. If the boat starts veering off course, again, going back to fishing, if it's moving, you find this great place that you're catching a bunch of fish and then you keep floating away from it, you're going to be really glad that you have the anchor. When you see yourself as somebody's anchor, and you then add on top of that feeling of feeling discounted and unimportant, I get that. I understand that feeling. Because you're the anchor sitting in the back of their boat. When they need you, they absolutely are delighted that you're there. I mean, safety tips, and don't count me in as Steve is this really greatly nautical person, okay? I've been in a few boats. But I know enough to know that, technically when you drive the car, technically what you should do is walk around the car, check the blinkers, check the headlights, and check the oil level and check the tires. You should actually do that every time you drive your car. We almost never do. We just take it for granted that the oil level's fine, that the tires are all pumped up. And that's the way people take you as the anchor in their life. They just jump in the car and they just drive around and they just figure, you're like a spare tire. You're sitting back there and they hope they never get a flat. And most people never think about them having a flat. But if you get a flat, you're glad it's there. Right? And you're somebody's anchor. And you may be right now their spare tire in the back of, in their trunk, or attached to the back of their car, or underneath, or wherever the spare tire on them particularly is. But they're glad for those words you put out. You see, that's part of why I encourage you that you want to do this every day. You want to do that mirror exercise. Now, let me be clear, okay? Because I know that if you've watched over the course of a couple of days, if you missed a couple of days, all right, I would love to see you do like I do every day and go live into the mirror and say your affirmation. That's going to be too much. Maybe for most of you. All right. I mean, you see me. I mean, I'm crazy. I go live, 3 times and, and it's, almost 1:00 now. But that might be too much for you. It might be too stressful for you to think about doing. But your face and your ears and your eyes need to see you saying those words. You need to hear them. You need to feel them. You need to believe them. And sometimes belief follows commitment. You may need to come up with what that statement is and start saying it in complete disbelief. And that's okay. Keep saying it. Like you said, we kind of jumped ahead. I know that technically today is the last day of September, but we've already jumped into October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We've got all kinds of cool stuff coming out, including Willie's new single that's going to be dropping this month. Willie's got a new book that's coming out this month. Lots of cool stuff. I've got some masterclass stuff that we're going to do this month. We have got a lot of really amazing things for you. And yes, I expect to see some amazingly transformative things happening, because all the promises, all that was promised is happening right now. Not at the end of the month, not later, right now. I believe that. I don't have to go to my bank account and see a deposit that I never even knew where it came from, but I've heard stories about that. I don't even know where that money came from. We've all heard people, and we've all been jealous of that. What if we were that person? If you don't expect it, how's it going to happen? Now, more than likely, money is going to come from the ways that money usually comes. A new client, a new customer, a new job. Your parents send you money, whatever. But you got to have that expectation first. And so that's why I'm always encouraging you to do that mirror work. You need to have that expectation first. And then you need that consistency of putting out your message. Now, some of you are only at the place where you can just only post. And for some of you, you're going to need to, whether lives or posts, you're going to need to bulk them out. It's just the way that your mind works, the way that your time is, whatever. And you can get one of several programs, up to and including, on Facebook, you can schedule posts now. So you could do up a week's worth or a month's worth of posts. Can't do lives, and I'm not sure if you can do video on that, but I know you can do just regular posts. And there are other services that you can use that can do that. But the consistency of that messaging, because you never know who's going to, and they may even, if you were on this side of the computer and you're seeing the little views thing, you would see the number, and people will pop in and they'll pop out. And, 1 out of every 10 people is going to hit a like or a heart button. The rest of them, they aren't even going to say or do anything. They pop in, they pop out. But they may be doing I don't have to do this anymore, but the phone I had before this one, I had to actually start the person's live and then go out of it in order to get it to clear out of my queue. And they may be doing that thing. They may be curious. Ooh, what does that mean? And they may not resonate with you at all, but I can tell you something. They're going to hear the words you say. And those words may resonate through them and send that shockwave ripple through them. Or that specific word, even if they don't stick around, may be exactly the anchoring, solid ground that they need to ground them and make them feel safe again. And like I said, that may ripple into their life. So they may hear the words, even flat out disagree, and then it just ripples through them. And an hour, a week, a month, a couple of years later, those words come back up and they give them the comfort and the solace and the next step and the possibilities that they didn't even know was there. You're somebody's anchor. And there's a great place for you to learn how your story can become an anchor for somebody else. And that's by joining us in the Visibility Amplifier community. You go to visibilityamplifier.com. Come join us. We want you, we need you to be part of our community, to share your story, to learn how to clearly state it. Know not only what you're passionate about, but the why behind that and the way that the words can be framed in that, the real clarity that comes from that. And then learn how to do that and share that consistently, because somebody that's waiting on you, they may need to hear it 6, 8, 10, 12, 48, 100 times before it really ripples through them. Consistency. And then, of course, so that you make the connection. And I know you want to do that. Clarity, consistency, connection. Come join us, Visibility Amplifier. You got to understand, your voice could very well be the anchor in somebody else's life. In fact, I'm going to take that a step further. Your voice absolutely will be the anchor in somebody else's life, but only if you use your voice and share it. So thank you in advance for doing that. We're going to be together again tomorrow, because we do these every day. And tomorrow we're going to talk about when ripples turn into waves. We might even go a little bit into tsunami. It depends on where that goes with me. But when ripples turn into waves, because ripples do turn into waves. And until we're together again, I hope you do your mirror work, do claim and confess those things. Say the things that you want to call into existence as though they already have, because they actually already have. And you got to move you to the point where you believe them. And have a wonderfully, wonderfully great week. We'll see you soon.